Yes.
Stefan. Raider.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Four.
Thank you. I want to draw attention to the Open Meeting Act, which is on the table back there, and then we'll say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We just had a meeting at the end of January because it was kept getting postponed. Appreciate the patience of everybody who respected the fact of my loss of a family member. So, first thing on the agenda then is Northside Acres, and there's really nothing to report there other than the surveyors kind of have their work done, and Ron Moore's working on his part. On the sewer.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
On the north side acres, does they're giving us a time frame where it's going to be complete so we can review it, or there's no time frame where it's going to be that we can review it?
Redo what?
Not review.
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 Oh. Okay, well, review what?
Review what he is drawing up, Mr. Norrie.
Yes.
Is there a time frame that he's going to be bringing to us?
We didn't give him a time frame, no, that I know of. On the sewer, we talked about this last time about the DEE that has requested some changes that were not in the first go around. They wanted to shorten the aeration ditch. Boomer, you got a call one last week, and they now have decided they want to deepen it rather than shorten it, correct? So they're still playing with that. This is not the engineers, this is the DEE. When they decide what they want, they'll finish it up. And until they do.
Do you have any idea when, or what number we're going to be looking at for total cost on this? Or we're not going to get to that point where all of a sudden, here it's done, here's the money, this is what we're going to do.
The estimate was already done. They have not changed that. Yeah.
Price and whatever it is. I thought-
Every estimate when you start up before the design is done is between this and this. They never give you a solid number. They have not changed that. Right.
Is there a deadline on that, or we just don't know either?
The deadline has been moving because of the DEE changing what needs to be done. They have not changed the start or the complete date, which means that if they get the design done, they'll probably be ready to do it yet this year. Okay. Yes. Yes.
I take it the engineering firm is going to create some specifications that...
I'm sorry, Joe. I can't hear you.
I take it the engineering firm that's doing this, when they get the design completed, they will have a set of specifications that you can give to contractors who are interested in bidding.
They will handle that part. That's all in their bid. Yes.
And what is their bid?
I don't remember.
Right now, there are no bids. The DEE has to figure out what they want.
Right. So that first estimate, like I said, may change, and it was within a certain range. It was $1 million something. And I didn't prepare, Joe. I didn't come with that because I didn't think that we were going to get into depth on it. Okay? You want those figures? Call the office, we can look them up in a heartbeat. The contract increase for garbage rates, we talked about, the last time we raised them, we just added on $2 to everything they proposed. I went through the profit and loss on that particular area, and we're not making much more than just enough for maybe 20, 30 hours a week work. So we're okay. It's covering what the city has to pay to the city, which is, we paid the fire hall, we paid for a dumpster out there. So we're making enough to cover that and just a little more. So I would propose, unless somebody has something else that they want to do, that we just do that again. They also told us it might go up again in July. Apparently, the cost of the companies, the refuge places that accepts that garbage keeps going up on them.
Have you recently increased the garbage?
Pardon?
Have you recently increased the garbage rates?
Not since,
No, I mean, you just haven't, you're like,
no, we talked about it last month and didn't do it.
and you're not going to do it now?
Yes, I plan to, if we can.
So how much are we going up on residential and senior citizens?
$2 on each of those sections is what I'm proposing. I have a different proposal. They are charging, they are going to $15.50 per household. That would make, we would charge $17.50. They're going 13 for seniors, we would go to 15, and they are going to $8.20 for the extra tote, and we traditionally have gone up $1 with that instead of $2, so that'd make it $9.20. But like I said, it's open to. But with that, but what I did was just add the same thing we'd added before, which was the 2, 2, and 1. However, we've got to consider that that they're going up a little bit with their the $25.50 for that we had out there at the shop. They're going to 27, so it's going up $1.50. But right now, the way I looked at it was just quickly figuring was if you had, we're paying right at $70 for water and sewer on the first house. So if we can keep that whole bill below 100, that helps the citizens.
So how long is this raise going to be, for 1 year? And all of a sudden-
Well, like I just said, they talked about maybe going up again in July.
Don't we sign a contract?
We do.
That's an annual contract?
No, obviously it's not, or it wouldn't go up again in July.
Don't we-
We contract with them to pick up our garbage. They send out the rate changes. We can accept it, or we can go find somebody else. Let's move on. If you want to do something different, or if you want to research more, let's don't sit here all night and talk about $1.
Is there any way we can set up a contract with them and negotiate with them instead of just, they put out a piece of paper and we're just supposed to jump through hoops?
Do you want to delay this so that you can go talk to Arts Garbage?
I would like to, because I think we need to set ourselves with a contract, say 3 years or something like that.
Well, there was a young man just called me tonight that lives in our mile radius of town. Want to know if he could come and get city garbage, because a tote for him in the country costs $45 a month, and they're getting it for $17 here. So, you know, we're not getting hurt. We don't have anybody else here to pick it up that I know of. That would be the place to start, because before we end a contract, we better have somebody else in mind.
I never said about ending the contract, Cheryl. All I'm asking is can we can negotiate so we have not a 6-month window for a contract. Say 2 years, okay, this is our price for 2 years, so we got substance.
How about we see what our contract says, Larry? Would that make you happy? Because what this does is they give us a raise when they get a raise. They got a 7% raise and gave us a 5% raise. So
That's what you call negotiations with a customer.
what do you want, 3% on their 7%?
I'd like to sit down and talk to them.
Okay, you're free to do that. Do you want to table this then, because they're going to raise the rates and we'll be losing money?
Did we know we were going up last month about this?
Yes, we had it at the meeting.
Let's do it.
Yep,
And what did you guys decide last month?
we tabled it.
Well, I suggest before we'll go up, and they said they're going up in July again, before July, I think we need to sit down and negotiate with them, because we can't just keep going up every time somebody gets a raise, or they want to do this or do that. We're ended up on, all these people out here scratching for every nickel they got, and everybody is. I'm talking about the board too. Nobody's flush with money in this town. I think we need to set up a contract so we got some kind of a basis so everybody knows about it before we're going up now, 6 months or July, we're going up again. We might as well just give them our checkbook. That's what I'm thinking. I'm
Okay.
a little pissed about it.
Okay. I would appreciate that either we make a motion and move on. I didn't
I'll
want you
make
to
a
be
motion,
upset
I'll
about
make a motion we
something.
go with this time before July, sometime in June, and we sit down with the company, negotiate whoever's the company that's represented with our town, that picks up our garbage. I'd like to sit down and talk to them and see if we can make some kind of a deal for these guys instead of a 6 month every time it goes out of our pocket.
Well, before that, we hadn't had one for a year. What I'm trying, so, you know, look at your history.
And we got a lot of history because we got the big sewer thing coming up and everybody's gonna be scratching about that
Yes,
too.
we know that.
Well, we're gonna,
What do you, so are you making a motion
I'm
to,
making a motion that we go with this increase, and before they said in July, before July to June, we need to talk to them.
I don't,
I'll make a motion to raise it this time.
More than, first you need to, if you want to adopt it, first you need to pass a motion, waive the recertification, vote on that. And then after that, vote, then you make a motion to adopt the ordinance.
so are we ready to accept it or to vote on the ordinance itself? Okay?
We needed a second first.
No, okay. What Mr. McNally just said, this is an ordinance. So if you're ready to accept this or, you know, whatever, then we have to, it's supposed to be read 3 different times. So we have to have a motion to waive that reading and then second that, vote on that, and then we have a motion to accept the ordinance. But there's no sense waiving the reading if we're not going to pass it anyway. So, but that's what I'm at trying. So if we're all in agreement that this raise is okay, then I need a motion to waive the reading of the ordinance.
I'll make a motion to waive the reading of the ordinance.
Motion by Don. Second? Second by Arlene. Vote. This is voting on a motion to waive the ordinance for the raising of the garbage rates. Larry?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Arlene?
Yes.
And I.
Yes.
Now I will entertain a motion for the passing of the ordinance which you have in front of you, which is 0320.
And this is an ordinance of the city of Crofton, Matt County, Nebraska, establishing an imposed rate for the use of refuse pickup services provided by the city, repealing conflicting ordinances and classifying in effective state. This raises the residential garbage pickup fee to $15 a month for people who are over the age of, for people that are over the age of 65. The rate is $17.50 for people that are under the age of 75, or an extra container rate of $10.20 for a temporary. The city staff 6-yard dumpster empty would be, did you talk about that?
Yeah, that's
27?
27, yep.
27 hours a month, and for the fire station, 2 times 96 gallon total, empty 1 time a week, $23.70 per month.
Yep. So 27 on the shed out there and 2070 on the fire hall.
Right.
Okay?
Need a motion to adopt.
So, any questions? Motion to adopt.
I'll make a motion to adopt the ordinance of 2-3-20.
Okay, motion by Arlene, second.
I'll second that.
Second by Isla. Dawn?
Yes.
Arlene?
Yes.
Isla?
Yes.
And Larry? Okay. So that takes care of that. The next thing on the agenda is the audit-approve adjustments. Not sure what, 4 days total? 4 days, I think, total was what a man named Eddie May, who wrote the Clerk Books program. Clerk Books is an addition to QuickBooks, and we've had that now for several years. And he comes in, traditionally has come in at the end of the year and made adjustments, done whatever he needs to do to get ready for the auditors. The auditors, as you know, we hired back with the state auditors who have been doing this for a while. They have sent out a list of things that they want sent to them to start this process. One of them was the things that Eddie always does for us, basically, which is the adjustments. The big, long paper that you have in front of you, and I didn't make a lot of these. There's only one over there for the public, but you're welcome to take pictures with your phones if you can. But these were, they're really hard to get them all copied onto one, sheet where you can have them in front of you. There are 98 adjustments, I believe it was. And the first page, you're going to see them numbered adjustment 1, and you'll see that 1 twice because you will take it out of one account and put it into another account. So in that first page, you'll see what account that item was put into in the first place in our books, and then where he took it, what he took it out of, and you'll see at the top of the original account, and then it has a class, and so you have an account and a class. So you're going to have, for example, government activities general funds. Those are classes and or funds. On the number 9, for example, it says government activity 61. That's the name of it, and then it comes out of multiple. And you can come in and get on the computer and you can follow these through. They're hard because he condensed this as much as possible. Then on the next page there, that just extends up and you have an amount, and that's the amount that he took out of that fund. Then you will see the reason for the adjustment. And then if you turn the page, the next page is another listing, then that's where it went, kind of a continuation of that page, and then it'll show you where it went, and then you'll have another number. Now those numbers may not all be the same, because he may have taken $100 out of one account and split it into two at 70 and 30 or something like that. But if he does, it'll say multiple, or you'll see the 2 or 3. Then again, at the end, it again says he changed it. A lot of those changed the fund based on the payroll item, changed the fund to match the account, changed the fund based on whatever. So there'll be 2 of those for each of those changes. I had hoped that you would all be able to come in and pick this up so you had some time to look at it. If you need time before you make a decision, I'm going to say right off, there's not much we can do about it. They needed to be done. Eddie has worked with the auditors, and they basically approved them and said whatever. They have been mailed to the auditor. But because this changes fund balances, I understood, Eddie, to say you have to republish the amounts in each account. Kathy's heard you have to approve the changes. It's the same thing. So we're approving the changes themselves, and they will change. And this big long thing that I gave you are the fund balances for the fiscal year. So what he did after he made first of all, he went through and took profit and loss out of certain items, because in accrual accounting, you don't have, they're set up a little differently, so you take your profit and loss and put it into the fund balance, and you show a condition of that fund rather than a profit and loss. So he made all those moves, put those into fund balances, and these were made prior to it. So those 2 long ones that are not in your packet are directly related to what Eddie did to the books, and they have been sent to the auditors. In the long one, you will find some funds that show zeros all the way through, because basically they're kind of duplicate funds, etc. No need to have them. This way that, kind of clutters up a number of accounts, a chart of accounts, so you've got maybe too many choices. One of the things that caused some issues, I think, was maybe shortness of titles. So 4550 is a deposit, water deposit, which in fact doesn't belong there, because if you are making a deposit for your water service, that's not income. 4550 is an income account. It's not income because it's not the city's income. It sits there till we pay it back. We all know that that's been an issue. Those paybacks have not happened on a regular basis. So we had to get everything out of 4550. So where does that go? Well, it goes into an accounts payable, because we've got to pay it back. That's a 2250. So the auditors had added to our 2250 out of that account for the last prior 2 audits. And then last year they had issued a big page that named names and amounts and put them into our 2250, made that transfer. Then they'd ask us to clean that up. So we have been working to match those names and pull it out of those accounts and credit them. Now, what we were told was credit to accounts that are still active, pay back accounts that are no longer active. So you write them a check, and you haven't got those yet because there's still a list, and you have to approve those just because it's a check written. If there's 4 of them. The other one can't. One is if you can't find the people, then they have to go to the Secretary of State so that they can be found.
There was a previous write-off.
Okay, and the other one would be if that money was sitting there, but there had been a debt owed and it had been written off, then we could recreate that debt enough to use that money. So those memorized transactions were set up by, I believe Eddie or Sonia, one of them, and those have been used to create credits for the people that are still on water. There's a list that we couldn't find. That list keeps getting smaller. That's getting close to an end, and then probably by next month you'll be able to approve all of those checks. Actually, hopefully they're done before the auditors get it. So we're about, when Eddie talked to Craig Kubicek, who is the auditor who's in charge of our account, the 3 of us talked, and I said we should be able to do that within the next week, and Eddie went to Georgia or somewhere, and it's not going to be back till the 10th of February, so he's probably going to come back in at that time and help finish up. There is about 3 pages of lists of things that the auditors want. We have sent bank statements and reconciliations, bank reconciliations. Now these 2 things have been sent, and now it's things, just odds and ends, and then there's some others that are more important than others, but we're working on the list as we go. The audit has to be done by the end of March. So they've wanted enough that they could start working. They have not said that they would not come on site. I thought in one place in the letter they kind of hinted they would. I don't think that's unusual. I think they like to spend a day or some hours or something, but I'm not privy to what had happened before. I know that they've been here once or twice. So, I know that they do spot check, and we all know that by the audits. So if you have a ledger that says that you wrote a check to somebody on such and such a date, and they ask you to pull that check, that's how they spot check. They're not going to cash, or they're not going to check every one of them, but they'll spot check. So if they find something amiss, then they'll ask us why and so forth. I don't see any huge problems at this point, but like I said, we're just kind of getting started too. So I think while we're on this at this point, if you have any specific questions on that, I'll see if I can follow through, although those are hard to really follow, check, unless you got everything in front of you. But if you trust the process, I guess, is part of it. That's just on this, on the adjustments. We would like to have a vote that approves of the adjustments that Eddie made, which we know is going to change it'll change the profit and loss for the year, it'll change the balance sheet and so forth. But that's through September, the end of September of 2019.
Is he done making adjustments?
He will do more after, when he comes back. But I don't think he's going to, I took it that he was done with the ledgers. So the adjustments themselves are done.
These are done.
Yeah. He will go in and kind of maybe make suggestions, and we're going to try and set up a better, remember this is his program, and he set it up, and so we did some complaining, and at first I thought he was a little resistant with, well, but that's the way it's supposed to be, but then he'd say, oh, well, maybe we could do that better. And like I said, one of the things was, let me continue that, like the water deposit 4550, then the accounts payable was deposits, water deposits, or customer deposits. And then there's the undeposited fund and 1,000 that's supposed to go in the bank, and then there's one that's just plain deposits. So there's at least 4 accounts that's got the word deposits in it. And if you know computers, when you start typing that in, it pops something in there, and if you're not catching it, if you're not checking it every time, it could put it in the wrong account.
So he's willing to simplify that for us.
He's promised he will simplify it, yes, yes. And somewhere in your pile, we probably won't want to go through that tonight, but I want you to have it. I put this out here late, it's not in your packet. But that is a chart of accounts that Lisa has gone through, and remember that QuickBooks has a suggested chart of accounts. So she's gone through and picked out things that we already use, and we've tried to get rid of duplicate names, and yet keep the integrity of the purpose, which is the income and expenses and so forth and so on. So that's the beginning of those. We've actually, I had Lisa set up a separate company because we thought maybe the old one, we wouldn't be able to get rid of those, because once you have put something in there, you can't delete the account. You can make it inactive, but it's still there. And then when it's still there, why it keeps popping up you could put something in it. And at first Eddie didn't like that idea at all, because he said, but that wouldn't have the clerk books attached. And then he said, oh, but we could. And then he said, well, maybe I'd have, but maybe there'd be a fee. And then he said, well, maybe not if we transfer. So he's playing with that. Okay? So we had the clerk books put on to both computers, but it doesn't seem to be a full download into the second one. There's things we can't do on there. So we need to talk to him about that, because I think we're paying a fee for both.
Oh, okay.
So I want to check that amount, make sure, Dawn, you remember how that worked a little bit, that we weren't getting quite everything.
Yeah, he definitely trusts another license, but.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it shouldn't be limited, is that correct? Am I
Right.
thinking right? Okay. So we need to look at that. Okay. Any other questions on that? In your packet also, you'll find just the regular category copies. I would like to talk just briefly about that, the other long one. That is that balance sheet by fund, and that's after those adjustments. And if you go to, see, I put them together for you so that the first page you have is, go straight through, and then you have to go across. If you laid those side by side, you'd have the complete thing, okay? That's your, that one, Arlene, right? No, that one, yeah. But you can, they don't have to be all together, because there's your fund balances, or your balance sheet for the entire thing. So if you go to the very last page of the thing, you'd be at the bottom of the last page, you'll see that 1,128,000 or 126,000. That's your total liabilities and equities, and if you find your assets, that'll match that. But then in between, you have all of those accounts. You'll find some of those pages, like I said, they're zeroed out because they've been either gotten rid of, emptied, or transferred in that transfer you were looking at earlier. Okay? If you look at the current assets, which is your 1,000 account, you'll see where all the money is in the bank. And then you've got the Sharon Street account, you've got the waters, and the water, sewer, and sanitation is going to be very high on your profit and loss and your balance sheet. Oh, no. This is last year's. Hang on. That one won't be. That should be balanced out where it is, because that's the fiscal year, okay? In your packet, there's some that are this fiscal year, which started October and will go to December, because all of these end at the end of December, because we're 1 month late. We're 1 month behind always because of our meeting being at the first. So what you're getting now, what Kathy hands out is the end of December. Okay? And on those, you're going to be high in the funds because all of the payroll at this point is coming out of a payroll account in general funds. And so that's going to, because we're trying to find a way to transfer that easier than splitting them all up and not being able to follow them. So. Questions?
I think you need to make a motion approving the changes suggested by the auditor.
By Eddie, not the auditor. Yeah. Okay.
Question, is Eddie an accountant?
We need to do the motion. Thank you. We would need a motion to approve the changes.
I make a motion that we accept the changes.
Okay, motion by Isla, second.
I'll second.
By Don. Isla,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
and Arlen.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now, question, Joe.
Is Eddie an accountant?
I asked him that same question, and I wasn't sure what his answer was. He said, well, I was a clerk for many years, and then I started writing this program, and then I started taking accounting classes, and then he went on, and I don't know if he ever really answered it. No. But he wrote the program.
Yeah.
Eddie's job is to get the things in the right area. If we don't want that program, that's something we can address later. But right now, things are fine. If that's,
He
you know.
gets it in the right category according to the government and the auditor. He does an excellent job.
That's right. He knows what they need. He knows what they want.
Now, is he charging you separate for these amendments? I mean, I know you, like the 2,600 last month. Is that,
We buy a contract, just like we always
You buy a
have.
contract.
We buy time, and his hours are counted off on it.
so
Yes.
whatever he does on here is coming off?
It's in that time
of the
period.
2,600?
Yeah, it's no different than his other.
He doesn't charge under two separate.
No. No. And that's the same for his other people that he turns it over to. I don't know if they're charged at the same rate. I've asked if we have any kind of an invoice. He's not sending it. I told him I'd like to have an invoice so we know exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, he'll send you
Yeah.
pages that shows where you used everything.
Yeah. I think I was looking through something, and I think it's probably online, so.
He can show.
Yes.
Are you going to have these items on the city website for people to view?
Which items are you talking about? This whole thing?
This stuff, like what you said, you could take a picture of it, you'll have it on the city.
Yes, that's all, yeah.
Good.
Is there anything different on their six?
October.
That's something.
It's October.
October.
The only thing that was on there was the only thing that's different.
Okay, we have not had anything on the website for a while except the minutes and so forth and so on. I don't run the website. Kalina run the website. When Kalina left us, we didn't have anybody to put it on the website. So we're not gonna shop that out to somebody in town. We're looking, and I think that Aaron will be doing that now. So we'll probably have it started again. We can only do so much with what, you know. If we don't have anybody that can do it, we don't have anybody that can do it.
We spent a considerable amount of money to buy a new website program.
How much, do you know, Joe?
I don't know, we
Well-
spent the money.
Then how can you sit there and say considerable amount? I am not willing to sit here and listen to you complain about everything. I'm moving on.
I'm simply asking.
I am
a
moving
question.
on, sir. You're out of order.
It was $750.
Okay, thank you for that report. We're not talking about that tonight. It's not on the agenda. I don't need to talk about it. The pool is on the agenda. That's Larry's baby. Let's have it. Let's let him have it. You want this?
No, I think I can talk loud enough.
I think they'd appreciate it. I always believed that too, but then they'd say they couldn't.
All right, that's not a problem.
I'm not sure that it'll reach though. Will it win the other one? It's not set up together.
It has to go on now.
Can you change places with them? I mean, that's just a matter of fact, Larry, so they couldn't. Sorry about that. Here you go.
Okay, people,
There you go.
citizens of Crofton, you guys got to be very, very excited. I'm excited. This is the first time in 62 years that I've seen this happen. We have a gentleman named Merle Gunther. He is donating $1 million to our swimming pool. And that's a lot of money, people, a lot of money. So, we got a little work to do. We got to find a location first. I know there's some arguments where the pool is going to go. Some people want it at the old pool. So Mr. Menke and I were signed by the mayor to find this, look at locations around town, and we did. There's 3 other areas we looked at. We don't own the property. The property belongs to the School District 96. Mr. Mink went to a board meeting, and they will not sell us any ground for a swimming pool. One area was east of the football field. There's a vacant lot, used to be a practice field. The other area was a new property they bought. Oh, let me try to describe it. Right south of the high school, that acreage right there, they bought from gardeners. Some people wanted it in the elementary playground that we have right up across from the Catholic Church. So we did some investigating, and there's no dice. People do a lot of talking. They say, well, we can get this, we can get that. Well, that don't hold water, people. That don't hold water. So the only place that Don and I are suggesting and bringing it to your attention is the same place we got our pool 50 years ago. The people that put that pool in probably ain't living here no more. My dad is in 90, Ewald Poppy's 93. There's people that age that nobody's listening to where we should ask them to do things. Nobody's talking to the elderly people in this town. We've got to use the elderly people for our strength. Now, there's a couple ways of looking at this. I know the Cedar Security Bank, people that had fundraisers, I think they looked on a sheet here, pretty close to $18,000, approximately $18,000. I don't know if that's the correct number, but I think that's what I read on the sheet. The pool fund that we have for the sales tax back in 2008, which I was here when that happened, and I think Mr. Mink was too, that 20% was supposed to go for the pool repair and major equipment only. We got approximately $14,000, and that thing was signed in 2008. Don't know what happened. I'm not going to worry about it. We got to look ahead. So with that, I talked to the, I guess it would be his nephew, Merle Gunther. He passed away. He left this money, and they're going to put it towards our pool, which is a great, great gift. We are 1/3 there. I asked Dave Hinkie to come here, head of GAO, the architect. We looked at the pool. He said there's no problem down there. The pool price is going to be $3 million, the way we look at it, this pool. We have to probably, and if I'm wrong, Dave, correct me, okay? We talked about raising the ground up a little bit and draining it down into that creek down there by the bridge. Is that right?
Yes, I think if we have any groundwater issues, we'll raise it a little bit and then put a drain tile underneath the pool and drain it down to the creek.
And
as it looks now, without any survey.
correct.
Would that be a gravity flow thing?
Say what?
Is that gravity flow out of the tile?
We're going to try and make it that way, yes. Yes.
So we have the hole there. The only thing is, we got to figure out how we're going to come up with this money. You know, Dave told me there's, or I forget your name.
Viv.
She told me that there's probably some grants out there that we could get to help this pool thing. They didn't know how much grants we could probably get until tonight, the $1 million gift that Mr. Gunther's given. Now, that still ain't going to be enough probably. So Mr. Mink and I sat around. We talked to the State Department of Revenue, wasn't it?
Right, and the county.
In the county, and they said the city can only go up 2.5% on sales tax. We are 1% right now. This is up to you people. It's not up to me or Don or any one of these boards. It's all about us, everybody that lives in this town. Raise the sales tax another 1.5%. I did talk to the banker in town here. They would borrow us the money, the 1.5% that we would raise, and the 20% that we are getting from the existing percent. We could take that money and give to the bank every year for a payment for a loan. That way, everybody is doing it, and nobody has to dig in their pockets. It'd be grateful if we had some people that had left a lot of money in this town, and we wouldn't have no problem. But things are tough, and we all know that. Everybody's sitting out here, everybody's sitting at home. It is tough right now. So, all I'm asking, and all I'm telling you is the information we found out. So I would like to, this is the information we came up with. Probably the only, I don't know if there's another solution. I'm open for suggestions from the crowd. You got any ideas, any whims? We can run fundraisers. We can run everything, but it's got to be a community thing because of the community pool. When I was a kid here, and a lot of people out here are still here, we didn't have a swimming pool in Crofton. We had to go to Hartington. Once we got a swimming pool in Crofton, people start sticking around. Our housing is being sold. People are buying houses. Mr. Hodson back there, he's trying to develop the north side out there to bring people in. The pool's location, I looked at it, Don looked at it, we're in the center of our town. Center of the north side over there, center of this old side. The park is there. It's a good fit. But I don't have all the answers. So I'm asking, what do you guys think about this? I mean, it's open. Anybody wants to come up here and talk? You're sure welcome to. Anybody got suggestions? Or just tell me to sit down. You can come up here and talk.
Oh, no, I'm not taking the microphone. Well, thank you guys for continuing with this and for looking into it. And I'm really glad it's going to stay where it's at. I'm with you.
Well, that's up to the general public.
So my question is, have we, obviously, like when we were looking into this, like they talked about doing several estimates for the pool. Is there any cost saving way? So like, I mean, if $3 million is our top line, is there like other options that maybe like, we had originally talked about refurbishing the pool house if it's staying there, you know, just, is there a way to, I mean.
But that's a good question. The problem I've seen in this town, and I've lived here a long time, and I'm sure everybody here, Joe Jensen, and we got Kim, we got Dad, we got Ellen and Jerry. This town has always looked to see if we could squeak by with a little this.
Right,
We've
right.
never had a good new product. We always say, well, we can save $5,000 on this, or we can save $5,000 on that, and then in a few years, here we are repairing things again.
Right.
So we're not really gaining nothing by it. I know it's a big bite, but back 50 years ago, the people didn't have sales tax to help pay for the pool.
Right.
They had to make a tough decision back then, and it worked out good. I have no kids in this town no more, except for my son, and hopefully he'll get grandkids. But we need to, no matter if you got kids or not, it's better for our community. People are going to move to this town. I'm proud of going up to Main Street and looking what we got. It is a very neat, clean town. Everybody works together. And I think if everybody puts their heads together on this thing, I think we can get this thing done. Yes?
Okay, so we've got, as Haley said, we've got a $3 million price tag. At what point in time will we have like a drawing that shows like specific amenities, like zero entry, kiddie area, what kind of toys, stuff would be involved in this? Because there's a lot of decisions that can be altered around, you know, a slide, a diving board, how much deck space, are you putting in this or that or the other thing, that can affect price. And also, something that had been discussed way back was seeing if we say, okay, so a slide is going to cost us, or a water slide would cost $35,000, which was the last price I got. Perhaps there's a business that would want to donate the $35,000 and give their name on it, or several businesses
Exactly.
to do that. But we need prices on all of that kind of stuff.
Okay, good question. Dave and I talked with Don. He said he just gave us a preliminary drawing, probably a simple pool. We didn't go into depth because they have to get paid if they're going to start sitting and drawing this stuff out. So they have to know where the money's coming from. It's a secured money. He's just an engineer that's going to engineer all those questions that you just asked. But they have to know the money is in the bank first. Okay, Susie?
Do you know some of these places that bid these pools out actually provide the engineering costs with that? Has that been looked into at all? I called one of these companies and they did say they will provide the engineering with the pool and the design. Can we get the pool for a decent price? I don't care if we have to pay sales tax. We have grandkids here in this town. I'll pay what we have to get the pool. But I'm just saying, have we looked into options?
Right now, I'll let Dave.
Can I ask which company you're talking about?
Gosh, I called them a long time ago. It's probably been like last fall.
Okay.
But I probably
So-
still have it on my desktop.
So let me just explain it the way we usually do things. We work for the city, okay? We look out for the city's interest. When you hire somebody that's going to do the engineering and the construction, who are they looking out for? Okay? Who are they looking out for? They're looking out for the construction
I also
part.
called the city office in that place too. It was Beersford, or I can't remember where it was. I called the city office. They said they did a fabulous job.
Okay, so we do have a little sketch that we did prepare for Don and May and Larry. We haven't shared that with anybody because frankly, this is my 4th meeting here, still haven't got paid. Okay, we need to start. JEO needs, if we're going to be more involved in this, we need to start getting paid for some of the services that we're providing. Yes, I don't want to correct you, Don, but I'm pretty sure we can only go to 1% more. Is that right, Jim? We're at 1 now, 2 is the max.
The state told us 2.5%, but they don't make no difference.
No,
That's not correct.
it's not correct. It's only 2. We got a list of all the communities in the state, and the max is 2%. Local option sales tax. Okay. Jim, do you know that if the difference is between the first half and the second half, does that take 2 votes to pass the sales tax? Because one takes the interlocal agreement, one does not.
Well, you call me election time. That doesn't matter.
Right, but the ballot, to me, I thought maybe the ballot, if you're gonna ask to go for the full 1%, a half of that takes an interlocal agreement with another government agency. So do you know there'd be 2 different things on the ballot? 2 different wording?
Well, if you got a local agreement, who's the agreement with?
Any government agency. They're not, they have no teeth in the game. It just has to be an interlocal agreement.
You have to have that?
You have to have that to go to 2%. From 1.5 to 2, you have to have that.
That interlocal on your budget, the interlocal is important because you can have 45 cents on $100. But that's on property tax, and then your interlocal comes in for only
As far as
5
we know,
cents.
their local is only for sales tax.
So, yeah, so see,
Maybe that's for something else, but, okay, so on the second half of the tax, you do have to have an agreement with another taxing entity, such as a fire department, or in this case, a school.
okay.
And they have, like Dave said, they don't have to do anything.
No.
But it's just the way the law is set up.
Okay, so explain that to me again.
So-
If if you go to a full 2% or if you go to 2.5? It's
No,
just-
No,
Okay,
it's
right.
only 2%.
It's only 2%.
Okay. So if we're going to raise it 1%,
Yes. The first half of percent.
Half percent.
Takes a normal vote,
okay.
okay, that you're gonna ask the
Has to go to a ballot.
pass the sales tax to pay off the bond for the pool. The second half has to have the interlocal agreement attached to that language in the ballot from what we've seen.
And if we wanted to do it at the school, we're right back to where we've been.
Go to the county.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
go to the fire department.
The fire department, I don't know, but yeah, I don't know who got there, yeah.
So,
But we give them so much.
so, back to the $3 million. That is the bids that we're seeing. We're just building a pool at Clay Center. It was $2.6 million, okay? I'm saying $3 million because we don't know when this pool's gonna be built. Prices are going up every year. Yes, you can get it cheaper, but what do you want? Do you want a good quality that's gonna last forever? And what kind of amenities you want? Somebody mentioned a $75,000 slide or $50,000 slide?
Last I saw was 35.
35. Depends on what kind of slide you want. I can tell you the pluses and minuses, all those slides that people out of there, wish they'd have never spent the money on them.
So 3 million covers
Everything.
we would estimate to be the high end of that.
That would be everything, engineering,
So
construction cost, everything like
What
that.
is the first step?
First step is figuring out how we're gonna pay for it, get the community to buy into it. Most communities at this stage right here say, okay, why don't we form a small pool committee and have it bring back to the council and say, this is what we want, this is where we want it.
That was my next
Yep.
article.
And we've had that pool committee, Susie's worked entirely with what she's worked, and they've worked on this for a couple, 3 years.
Right, but did they actually bring something to say, this is what we want? All right, and this is how we think we ought to pay for it?
The paying for it is the big thing here.
Yes.
That, if we, and I appreciate your talk with the bank, and the idea that we could dedicate that sales tax money to a payment to the bank. But at the same time, you also said in your speech there that everybody's hurting, that it's hard times, that we don't want to add any more to the burden to the people with raising the sewer rates, for example. But the fact is that we can't guarantee the sales tax is going to stay the same if people are hurting. And that whole thing, you know, I mean, we can estimate, but what happens that the sales tax money drops off, that payment still has to be made, so you're still going to look to the town entity and the income, so you still got to consider that. And that's not right, you
The
know?
sales tax, Cheryl, is people coming into the town of Crofton. and
I understand where it comes from.
Right.
But the fact is, that you can't guarantee how much we make on sales tax. Nobody can.
No, you can't. But the language in the ballot can say that that sales tax is collected until the debt's paid off.
So what I'm saying is that he said that the bank was willing to take that as their payment. If there's not enough comes in that year, the city still is liable for that payment. Wouldn't they be, if it's in our name? We're gonna have to make the payment. So if it doesn't happen to make it, it's just a thought. I mean, you're gonna have to come in low, with low estimates, so you make sure that you make it.
We're still at the starting point of this.
I understand that, but that's just a consideration you have to make.
Kim?
If you've got an attractive pool with more amenities that people are going to want to use more, I would say that could the city make a motion to set the fees for the pool higher and use the offset from the pool fees to go on the payoff on the pool? I mean, it might not amount to $1 bazillion,
But Kim, the last 5 years, which I checked out, the sales tax that we had from 2015 to the present, it averages out at 20% that we get, pretty close to about, average is about 15,000. That's at 20%. So if we add another 1 whole percent, so we have 1.2% going to the pool.
right.
And we can work probably with the bank, and he probably has to look at these numbers too, but we, from 2015 to 2019, the 20% that the pool, I don't know how to say this politely, should have got was $15,000 every year in that fund.
Is that based on what, 70,000 about, or?
No, every year was different. One year was 90,000, one year was 80,000, one year was, the lowest one was, this last year, it's 74,750.
That's my point, that you can't guarantee that.
But the banker is looking at them on numbers also, and he understands what's going on too. But we're just at the starting point of this thing. We got to figure out how we're going to get the money together for this man to draw up the details that everybody's asking about. If we don't have money for the slide or the basketball hoop, there's places that we're going to have in that pool probably for that, whoever wants to donate. Run fundraisers for the slide this year or next year or whatever. But Dave told me if they start in July, they have it done by next May. So we don't have 2 years of sitting there without a pool. But every year you wait, and Dave knows this too, everybody knows the price is going to go up.
It does go up. And sometimes you just don't understand how much it goes up and why. You really don't. So like I said, we've already given the city something to look at, some options. I'm not saying it's overly fancy, or it's got zero depth, it's got diving boards, it's got a lily pad walk. It does not show a slide right now, because like I said.
That's the first one you brought in, Dave, is that the first?
Yes, like I said, because I've seen people actually put in and spend a lot of money for slides and then nobody uses it.
Yeah.
So, because you go down it twice and it's the same ride, and there's a lot of other things to do a lot different. So, go ahead.
I've had our lifeguard, our manager also said when they have a slide like that, you have to have one lifeguard on that slide all the time. And she says, we don't have enough lifeguards to do that. Sometimes two. She suggested a littler slide, like for the little kids. She says, man, those little kids just use it. And she says, she feels we need 2 diving boards and basketball hoops the kids love to play on. And I think it's to bring in some of those people's opinions and ideas, what we need as a community.
Yes.
Of the good and bad. And we don't need a fancy pool. We just need a pool. And something that's going to last and reliable.
With some other amenities that you don't have now.
Right,
Yes.
definitely.
Yes, absolutely.
We figured one diving board and the other side would be, and Don and I both heard people like to swim the whole length, but they can't do it because of 2 diving boards, you got that roped off. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen other, what everybody wants. And I know it's not going to be made and decided tonight. All Don and I were doing is bringing you the information. Yes, go.
You know, from a contractor's standpoint, it's a blessing to have that creek right there to drain the grain of soil.
Drain the soils, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like, if it was sitting in a spot where there was no drainage, it'd be a
Well, then you'd have to pump it, which then it adds a lot of cost.
Right.
Yearly cost, not just initial cost.
Yeah,
Yearly cost.
maintenance cost.
Yes.
So-
And that's what I was concerned about, whether you could do the gravity or whether you had.
Keep in mind, I'm saying with my eyeball, I think you can do it.
Exactly.
We have not done any survey.
Yeah, because that would be a big maintenance cost if you had to pump it.
Okay, I think we've had the committee and we've had information gathered or whatever. So I don't think we want to start from square one. I think that our consensus is we really want a pool, pretty much so. And we haven't paid anything to the engineers. So my suggestion is we take part of that money that was raised, that's in the CD down at Fordyce, have the engineer draw up a plan that we can all look at and start from there and decide if we want to add things to it or whatever.
First, I'd like to have this committee say what they think they would like. Okay?
Okay.
What would you
well,
like in the pool?
what
I
did
would
you
like to have that
guys
first.
say when
It's
you
easier to
left?
draw it up
Susie, you guys-
after you.
We were taking, we had a design which had some of these amenities, like the one, so we could give that to you.
Okay.
And I do think, before we were stopped, whatever you're gonna say, we did want to, we did also, that auction was put out there to use that money towards an engineer so that we could find out what, that information about the ground down there, so. But we're not a committee anymore.
But do you guys out here, that's your.
But I do have a picture.
Agree
of what we-
with some of the fancy things like the slide and the basketball hoop can be done on a donation after we get done with this.
Well, I mean, that's what we
Well,
were
they still have to
working,
be planned in there. I mean, we do have two plans that have some of these things I'll show you. Basically, they're both kind of the same thing. They got like a mushroom in the deep end, or the kids in, and they got bubblers for the little kids. And it's a zero entry, and there's a place to swim laps, and there's a diving board, and there's a slide.
Okay.
But until those are all details, I mean,
Yes.
honestly, we were just at a place where when we heard about this option for this money, that we just wanted to get it
Is there a
started,
question
so.
back there?
If you do have those things donated at a later time, don't you need an engineer to approve and sign off on those when you install them? Because I know that certain towns that have installed a slide after the fact have had to have an engineer go.
That's because they did it after the fact.
Okay, that's what I'm saying, if you do it after,
Okay.
It has to
the
be
whole
cleared
project
by
is done.
the,
Well, yes.
That's what I was saying.
When you add a slide to a pool, whether it's existing or new,
Yes.
yes, it has to be approved by the health department first, yes.
Yes.
And there's many communities in Nebraska that got caught doing
Yes.
that, so, many.
I just wanted to point that part out.
Mike?
Do we need, what you're asking is you want to know what to plan for. If what is wanted there is planned for, those things can be added later.
Yes.
They're included in the plan.
Because you know what the difference between a pool slide, a $35,000 pool slide and a $200,000 pool slide is? A big difference to the pool.
There's $65,000.
A big difference to the pool too. Because those bigger slides take very shallow water. The little slides that you're talking about take deep water. So there's a big difference of where that slide actually gets put. And guess what? If you really don't want a $200,000 slide, because that does take 2 lifeguards.
But in the drawing that Dave drew up, there's going to be a roof over all the mechanical parts, which we don't have right now. It's going to save our equipment. Back in the day when they did it, nobody thought about roofs. It was out here, it's weatherized, and went to hell. Sun beats down on stuff. We go in them bathhouses, and Jerry and I went in there. It was terrible. But everything is going to have a roof over the top, so the elements ain't going to be tearing it apart. And I don't think we're going to have any maintenance on this pool a good many years. Any pool that we put in.
Anything mechanical will break.
We'll break down.
Will break.
Yeah. I meant sunlight.
You will break.
So in a nutshell, if we get a committee and we get the ideas to you of what we want, and we find the money to do this, I think I kind of hear something being said but not asked, what kind of dollars would it take to, JEO to draw this up? What kind of dollars do we, I don't know, if I remember the dollar amounts to get this kicked off then.
What I gave you, I think, back in December was $125,000 to get the design done and get it approved by the health department, okay? And then there's bidding services, contract services, construction, the 2-year warranty period, and then on-site representation during the construction. So that totals about $265,000.
Okay.
And that's included in the $3 million.
I'm saying right now, the pool's going to cost between 2.6 and 2.7, so $3 million.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
It ain't going to be above that. Well, I don't know yet.
But if I can just throw this in, because that's kind of where we are, the statement was made, can we take some of that money that's for DICE, there's 19,000 there, that's not gonna be the 125,000.
But
That's not
That's not even a drop.
That's not even 125. What I'm going to propose is a small fee to just get this thing sorted out till we actually have a plan that everybody can agree on.
Okay.
Then we'll try and figure out how to make all this money work.
Okay,
And where it's going to come
that's
from.
what I want to know.
Just keep in mind, even if you pass a bond for sales tax, you don't collect that for 6 months.
And you don't get to vote till when? Till November? It has to go on the ballot, right?
Okay, most,
we can get it,
okay.
we can have a special meeting, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, we could have it and get it on the ballot before March 2nd, correct?
Well, but you don't vote till November.
Primaries.
you have to, if you want to put it on the spring election, you've got to submit it to the county clerk 50 days ahead of the election.
So May is the
March,
election.
April, May.
The county told us we've got to get it to them by, that's the 2nd of March.
2nd of March?
They would accept it and get it on the ballot for the
But you
May.
can have a special election anytime.
Anytime it doesn't cost a couple grand.
And wait, she also told us we got to get it on the agenda and got to get it voted on, and she got to have all the figures before she'll put it on the ballot.
We are finding that most communities try not to have it at the normal election time, just because they want people to focus on this.
Sure.
And have a mail-in election. And it seems to be a lot more successful.
Did you, because of the yes vote, so
I
we
can't
know
run for
then.
president then?
No, sorry, Larry. Well, you can. as long as you're-
So, John, did you say that March 2nd is her
Yeah,
deadline?
it's usually March 1st, but see, March 1st this year is on a Sunday.
So we would have to have,
We'll have one.
Another meeting next month.
I don't know if I do it that soon.
Yeah.
I would suggest you don't.
I was gonna say, you'd have to have a special meeting again this month to
Yeah.
even get it going.
No.
You'd have to have a meeting this month.
You have to get people talking about
Yeah,
it
you
first.
can't,
You have to
we
get
didn't,
the
most of us, this is
enthusiasm
the first
going.
we've heard of this, how can you?
Yes.
Yeah. Even your council hasn't heard of it till now, so.
Jerry, you had a question back there?
Yeah, when you were talking about where you'd like to put this thing, I think where it is the place it should go. I was chairman of the board, of the park board here for quite a few years, about 2 years after it started. And when we had that pool first going and we had good maintenance down there, we had people from Wynot, Nebraska, taking a bus, loading kids, picking them up at the Hardington corner, bringing them up to Crofton for swimming lessons. And we had a heck of a good pool down there. Some of the problems that we talk about this pool's having as far as high water table and that, I do not think is really brought on by the water table. It's brought on somewhat by when the creek rises, it freezes, it causes a pressure, and we're getting a back feed into that pool. Years ago, there was a gentleman here that worked for the town. His name was Lawrence Eaton, and he had a plug, and we're trying to figure out just where that was. I even asked my boys about this because they mowed the parks for a while, and they said they were told not to hit that pipe there. And he would drive a wooden plug up in there so we would not get a back feed into the pool. Now, this year, I've been watching this down there all the while. That pool has not raised one bit of water except maybe what we got from snow and rain like that. The pool level has not come up. If you look at that pool right now, and I think he will agree that the bottom of that pool is not a whole lot lower than the bottom of the creek.
It's not. No, just not by looking at the eyeball.
Yeah, that's right. It's
Yeah.
not much lower. So, and where we talked about putting in drainage tile and stuff like that to get the water table down a little bit would help that. The other thing is we talked about where that pool cracks, and I've checked with some other people. Most pools, and you can say whether that's true or not, will tell you that a pool will usually crack between the deep and the shallow. Is that correct? Over a period of years.
Yes.
And that's really not brought on by a lot of the issues that we're talking about that's caused that problem down there. The other thing is electricity is down there. Water is down there. The sewer system is down there. The sidewalks, everything to bring kids down there is down there. We're not up here along the highway where we can have people driving by and maybe pick up a kid or something like that, things that everybody's talking about today. To me, the ideal place is down there exactly where it is, and like you said, maybe raise that pool a foot or two. With the ability we have to move dirt in that today, that's really minor. Years ago, when they built that pool, that was the number one thing I pushed was we need to get that pool up in the air 2 feet. The response was it's going to cost too much money to move dirt in around that pool. And I always said, it's a 50-year project that we're looking at.
Yes.
And that's about what we've run.
So so you said that that was already decided, basically, you think that most people want where it is now?
Well, that's the consensus we got.
That's kind of what I'm hearing here tonight, for sure. I don't know, does anybody think that we need to have any kind of a survey or anything in the city, or are you satisfied to move ahead with it there, or whatever, if the council wants to move ahead? I will say, and my biggest concern is the money, obviously.
It's a lot of this.
What is the status of this comfort request? Is it available right away, or how long it's going to be?
Yeah.
Well,
What was you said you had a
we
conversation
had
with
a
her
conversation
Friday?
the other night, Don and I, and the nephew, I guess, right? The Ed guy?
I thought it was the son of Twyla.
Twice, but the guy that's got the money is Merle, and that would be a nephew of Merle's. Merle Gunther is the guy that has this.
Merle
this
passed
money.
away.
I was going to say, that money is in the trust.
Well, whatever it is, I think we're not, right now, I don't think we're at a real, like, have to write the check tomorrow or have to do this tomorrow. I think we got some time. I like the idea of making a committee, 6, 8 people in the town. People ask, get on the board, start figuring out what we want to do, get a plan going, get the money. I don't think it'd be a problem. You, Don?
No, he's ready to write the check, but he wants it so he can deduct it from his tax, so it's got to go into a
So
special
we're
501.
So we're thinking about the foundation, I guess.
Did he say it's just $1 million?
$1 million.
Because when I talked to her, she said there was $1 million already in a trust, and that she wanted to leave it in the trust till we were ready for it because it had pretty good return, and the return on it would make that more than $1 million, but she wasn't just sure how much.
This man cut it right off.
He pooped
Cut
out.
it off. Yeah, she was more like that, maybe that would, be more.
I talked to her and she kind of said what you said, and then the next day she says, I want you to talk to my son. And the next night, poof, that's what it was. So I don't know who's all involved.
Why, the 501, does that affect the
501C.
that much?
501(c) or something like that.
And she had told me, well, she wanted to make sure that we had enough money to complete the project. And I'm going, well, that kind of leaves that all wide open now. doesn't it?
Yeah.
It did, but I think when the son got involved, I think he,
I think they want to end to it, yeah.
because she's 93, 94, something like that. I mean, I'm not 93.
And that's
I'm not
kind of
94.
why I kind of asked her maybe set it in another, put it in a trust so she'd know that. And she said, well, it's already in a trust.
The thing is, I want to see that trust because as long as she's alive, it's not irrevocable, she can change it tomorrow.
Right?
Her son is actually the manager of the trust. Twyla is not, her son is the manager of the trust. The one that you were talking about that
Yeah,
said boom.
his name is Ed. So,
Larry,
Well,
is there a way you could get the pool to process the sewer water?
we're thinking,
Good idea.
Because then you could just
it'd be
double up,
awful
right?
nice if we could.
No?
I don't know if I want to publicize that.
Can you rig that up? Come on, engineer, rig that up. No, so my real question is, you want to find ways to add value to your community. Have you ever considered like I don't know how everybody's going to react to this, like a Keno business in your community? Would Waltz be willing to run a Keno system? Would there be, you need to add new money is effectively what you need to do
Well,
to even get your sales tax to go up.
That's where the people out in the city need to talk and put some heads together and see what we can come up with.
Well,
those or tickets, whatever you call them, that they sell, it has to be for charity, don't they?
It has to offset taxable expense to the community is what it's
Right,
for.
but
So
they have to
you can dedicate it to whatever you want.
dedicate,
Effectively,
right,
if you want.
I don't gamble, so when I first.
Well, you need to start. No. But there's ways to add value to your community that, you maybe haven't thought of yet.
Well, the foundation is going to include something in the alumni invitation letters this year for the alumni banquet, so we can contact over 3,000 people So if we know that we're going to build a pool, Doyle, correct me if I'm wrong, we could probably include in our foundation letter something about this year, our donations, you know, we're trying to start building a pool fund or whatever. They can run it through our foundation and get the tax credit, and then we can turn around and, you know, give it to wherever.
Anything will help. Anything.
But we would kind of like to know that before we mail the invitations out, which will probably be in March.
I can start a car wash down by my house, but I don't think I'll have 3 people.
Mr. McNally, can you answer that question that Don had about the,
amongst the rest of
the
the
Right,
foundation.
absolutely.
It's gotta be, it's
501.
gotta be voted on.
That's one of the requirements of this $1 million is that it has to be, and he has to get paperwork back on it, that it is in a 501c, so he can deduct it from his tax.
Well, the city is a
Well, you have to have
501c3.
an organization set up that's approved as a 501c tax-free organization, so that if she makes $1 million, she can take it off her income tax and
Right.
federal state tax.
But,
Yeah,
We are.
the Crofton Foundation.
why wouldn't you use the foundation for that? Because it's
If the foundation is
tax free.
501c, and it's qualified,
That's why we're there. That's the reason.
And I don't argue that point. I'm just bringing everything I
yeah,
know.
but you gotta watch that foundation, they'll run away with the money here.
No, nobody's doing that. Them 501Cs
I'm
are
act
real.
like I didn't hear that at all.
I didn't expect anybody to.
well, it's kind of important though, because like I said before, if, I'd like to see what the trust says, because if the trust says that it gives to the city of Crofton, that would still qualify. Even though it's not a 501c, it would still qualify.
It just needs a nonprofit.
Yes, because the city of Scribner was given $3 million, and that qualified even though it wasn't a 501c.
Well, he made it pretty bold.
Well, I think, but see, that's what Kathy, I heard that conversation there, that about tax standing. We are exempt simply because we're a municipality. So if they're looking for an exempt organization, we're already there.
Will we be able to send him that kind of information?
Put it down with,
Oh, yeah, sure.
with your John Hancock on it.
Sure.
Because he ain't gonna take it from us. He wants to see it from a lawyer's view of it, I guess.
Well, I'm city attorney Scribner, I handled the whole $3 million, so.
So, anybody don't have any more questions, any more concerns, you know the game plan. We gotta talk outside these walls to see people across them. We gotta be excited about it because $1 million is a lot of money, folks. I don't care which way you look at it, which way you turn it upside down, it's a lot of money.
I would still.
Very generous of this Merle Gunther's family, and very thankful, and I think we need to, you know, proceed with it. It's probably gonna take some thinking, but I think the town has come together over all these years, way back when they had the first swimming pool here, they came together then. I think we actually could come together now again and bring our town together.
How many investments have been made with 33% down? That's huge.
Exactly. So we need to bring this town together and work as one.
Of tax-free money.
Yes. So talk positive, folks. That's all I can say is talk positive of what we're doing here. This pool is going to be bringing this town back together. Everybody's going to benefit by it. Everybody.
I still think you should publicize the fact that we have $1 million.
Oh, exactly. It's on tape.
No, he's saying don't publicize it until you have the paperwork. That's what he's suggesting, which I agree with. I mean, I don't want to write, yeah, you got 33% of the money down if you don't have a contract that says, yes, we have that money and here it is and it's right here and it's contractually obligated to come to the city. So you have some work to do to get. Is this different than like 2 months ago when we had a nice drawing and a presentation about a pool?
This is the same project, right?
Same project.
Okay, that was just, everybody keeps talking, we don't know anything it's gonna look like, or we don't know what the project is.
That's what I was just saying. So what is it gonna take if this is a done deal, which is great, we've got to think, but we've got to figure the funding. If we've got a third of it, we still have to figure, you're gonna have to pass the bond issue. You're gonna have to get that going. And if that's not possible, because it can get voted down, and then again, if that 1% or whatever that turns out to be is not as much as expected to meet payments, then we have to make other arrangements to make those payments at the bank. Because they're not gonna, we can't just say, whoops, we didn't make it.
Jim, I got a question for you, just on that comment there. As we talk to the banker, and there's gonna be more than myself, there's gonna be a lot of people on this board talking to him, we could extend it, so he looks at the last 5 years of sales tax. He can put a cushion in there, so we got it lengthened out, and once the pool gets done, we can eliminate that extra 1% that we got. I mean, is that possible, that he can lengthen it out for
No,
us?
I don't think so, because, you know, the ballot question is going to ask what you're going to use the money for. And so if you say that you use it to build a pool, then that's what you got to use the money for.
Exactly. And keep that on there until we get the thing paid for.
Yeah.
And that's the lengthening out the loan.
Is there a time limit on the ballot? Do you know?
Well,
there was one on the first one, wasn't there?
20 years.
20 years?
That goes to 2024, so that's in effect. This would be over and above.
Right, right.
So we'd have
But
a whole
but
new
are they all
ballot.
just automatically 20 years, or we put it in the ballot?
We
don't
chose 20 because Hartington had chose 20 at the time, so.
Oh,
But do
okay.
we have to pass a bond issue if we're not going to raise our taxes, our property taxes? If we finance it through the sales tax, do we still have to do a bond issue?
Yes.
We do?
Yes.
What your
What do you think the bond
language is
issue
gonna
we're
say
talking
is-
about? Percent, I thought we were talking about just sales tax, not bond.
hang on,
Okay,
because you're going to borrow the $2 million.
okay.
So that is now you're going to ask the voters to take that sales tax to pay off the bond.
Okay, the money, okay.
That's what the
Okay.
vote is going to say.
Okay. So we don't have to pass two different, well, is it two different things then, or it's just in conjunction?
Because
with
an
raising the
actual
sales
bond
tax?
issue creates a different bond. Like the school bond, you got to vote to see if you want to create that bond.
Right.
But we wouldn't be doing that here, we would be just raising sales tax to pay a lot. Pay.
What
Is that
bond?
Bond to borrow the money to pay for the rest of it.
That's a bond,
That's a bond.
Okay.
Yes.
And the bond issue's got to come when the school wants to build their school, and that's probably got to come within the same time period that we're paying off the pool and so just not to make anything discouraged, but.
Well, we got to figure something out because we have $1 million, so we
Right.
can't.
Has anybody done the math on that stuff? I mean, JEO obviously has the ability to do math on $2 million bond at a certain percentage rate. What's the possibility that the sales tax would even cover it?
I think we've already done the math.
The bank-
Figured you had.
And it won't quite cover it.
Cough it up. There you
It
go.
won't quite
That's what I
cover
was,
it.
that's
There
what I
you
was
go.
wondering.
That answer you wanted?
That, not really, but
Okay.
I'm glad you gave it.
For 15 years, we think it'll raise about $1 million. At the present rate
At the present rate of sales tax.
of sales tax.
Yeah, you said 15,000 a year, is that what you said?
That's average of, that's just the 20% that we get. We
Yeah.
didn't get the full 1%.
So 15,000 in 10 years, 150 grand.
But then if we add another 1%, that whole 1% would go towards, we're adding 1.2% of the sales tax.
So 1% in 15 years should raise about $1 million.
Right.
Okay. At the present tax rate.
Gotcha.
So you're still about $1 million short.
Yes.
That's what you need to raise.
Yes.
Or find.
Yeah, there are some grants out there though. Don't forget about the
Yeah,
grants.
There we go.
There you
You're on
go,
the
Bev.
stage.
Now you're on, you've got the floor. You're talking grants, lady.
Don't promise anything.
Again, we can never promise that you will get a grant, but we can put you in the best possible position. You know, there's the Civic Center grant, you're eligible for up to $562,000. The Land and Water Conservation, that was another grant. The average award in 2018 was $158,000. You know, you add those two together, that's $720,000. There's some other smaller grants that you could get. There's some tax credits that you could get if people want to help. They're eligible for some tax credits on that, such as if you get somebody to come in here and like demo the pool, you know, you could get tax credits for that. If you have local electricians, they could get tax credits. So, you know, you could always do something like that too, and that would also help out with the pool.
We got a
There's a few
question,
different
we got a
things.
question back here.
Yes.
I was actually talking to Lowell with the Northeast Nebraska today, so with different dates and application times for those grants. So, just so we had an idea as to when they would need to be applied for.
And we would write the grants for free for these larger grants. There's some smaller ones, you know, we can't write every single grant there is, but for the larger grants, we would definitely write those. We would write them for free. If you want them to do it also, that's fine with us, doesn't matter, but.
So you're telling me.
I was
if
just
we-
meeting with them today to have a meeting, so. Okay. Yes.
So you're telling me if I owned an excavator, and I know a guy down 81 that owns one, he'd come in and demolish it, and that would go towards the grant?
It would be a state income tax. Well, it's not really a grant. For you, you would be getting that work for free, and they would be getting the tax credit. So it's like, it's a 40% state income tax to any individual or business that donates something of value to an approved project. So you would be getting it free is what it's good for you.
So that would
you know.
take the cost off this money that we're looking at.
Right, yep.
So if we
It's the
had,
same as a grant.
if we had a concrete outfit come in that's locally pouring concrete to the specs on the top, not the pool basin, but the top approaches, we could take that into account and it would bring the cost of that $3 million down.
Right.
So that's something to look at.
Yeah. And we actually have a funding person that could, you know, come up, you know, you know, once we get settled here, we can have him come up and talk to the group, talk to a council meeting, you know, whatever, when we figure out when we want to do that exactly.
So now my next big question to the public out here is who wants to be the spear leader on trying to get a group together? Not everybody raise their hand. We need somebody to be in charge of getting the people, doing the little research that we talked about, and reporting back to the board. So
Do you want me to do that, or
Aaron?
do you want me to do that?
I was gonna say, Aaron,
Yeah.
why don't you take that?
Yeah.
Because she's got the resources with the Northeast and she can stay in touch with these people.
okay, so that would be the contact person of all the people that we're gonna put like on a 6-person board maybe or something.
Get us the list of names, and then we'll tell you when we can meet. How's that?
That'll work.
Okay.
Anybody else in the crowd that has any questions or concerns about what we talked about?
Is that in addition to her hours that she gets now then for economic development?
I don't know whether she's gonna work for free on the pool thing or not.
What are you gonna pay her?
He said he wanted volunteers from the public. Maybe we should just let her be the public.
Yeah, sure.
Bev, have you ever written, see, our other pool was funded partially by the Nebraska State Parks and Rec.
Game and Parks, yeah.
And so and their grant can be up to, it's a competitive grant, is up to $300,000.
So,
But
I have a list of all the pools and all the parks that was funded by the Game and Parks last year. Okay?
better drainage.
2 of them.
It's blank, isn't it? Yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, unfortunately, the 2 pool projects funded by the Game of Parks last year. The year before that was 2.
I know, the Norfolk paper had Meadow Grove as one of them too.
You can look on there, I didn't see that over one there. That came from Game of Parks. 350 and 250.
Yeah, yeah.
So are you still where you were, that you wanted this group to get together before you start anything, or what you want to do with the money? For you to do anything.
Oh, did we do it? Are you going to on the agenda? Nope. Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay.
All I have for information, John and I thank the people for participating.
I'm sorry. Couldn't pass Okay, is that all you have, Larry?
That's it.
Okay, anybody else want to say anything at this point, guys?
I do just have one question. I mean, have you legally engaged these people for this money at all? What can I report? I can't report there's a nice person.
These people?
No, the person that wanted to make the donation. Have you legally engaged them? Mr. McNally wanted to see the details of the trust, how specifically it's going to work. It's not a guarantee until you have all the paperwork. Should you have Mr. McNally perhaps work on engaging these people and get something written down?
Susie started with it, that's her relative.
Sure.
I was given a piece of paper with her name and asked to call her. And then Larry said he was calling her and I didn't want to bombard her. So I talked to her for a while. Larry said the last one in touch. I don't know from here.
I can call it.
If they feel like, I think that we
I mean, you guys do what you want, but
Yeah,
in terms of like, I can't really report.
You're involved.
I can't really report that the city of Crofton is going to be receiving $1 million unless you have some kind of legally signed document that say that's going to happen.
I think that our lawyer should be the one that contacts.
It's just a suggestion, but
Yeah,
you can do what you want.
I think, Jim, if you and I and Don can get together and have a conference call with them so they know us. Ed knows us, and if you're in, we got to make some kind of arrangement that we can, and since I'm laid up, I can just about go anyplace right now.
Well, we can certainly do that. My experience in these matters indicates that, whenever you get children involved or nieces and nephews, things can change awful fast, particularly in a state. And that's why it said, this is an irrevocable trust or a revocable trust. If it's an irrevocable trust, it can't be changed and you're going to get the money. If it's a revocable trust, she could change it tomorrow. And if you have kids involved, they can influence her. And sometimes they do, and then many times they do. And so that way, as much information as you can get now would be very beneficial, because if in fact she says you're going to get the money, but the documents don't say that, you're not going to get the money.
We can ask, we can call her again, and we'll probably end up talking to Ed, because that's who I have to call now.
Well, I think we need to get an address and let our lawyer call and write a formal letter and ask what the circumstances are or something to that effect, so that there's...
Well, I can certainly write a letter to say that the city of Crofton is excited about this, but in order to make any concrete plans, we need to know exactly what the situation is so that we don't go down the road and find out we're at a dead end.
And that question about the number, he could answer that within the city, within the state law kind of thing.
Okay.
He definitely wants us tax, so we can write off his taxes, so whatever we do, we
He
gotta.
must make a lot of money.
There won't be any money.
Wouldn't that be sad to make that much money, if you with that $1 million write-off?
State tax exempt of $5.5 million. God really need it. Her state goes to $5.5 million, and she would need that. Because for a state of 6.5, and she gives the city $1 million, then it moves her estate down to 5.5, and she doesn't pay the 40% tax. And so that's just another element that you've got to look into to make sure that you know what you're doing, and she knows what she's doing before she dies.
Well,
So
tomorrow,
would you all agree that maybe if you could get, I guess I have Twyla's address, I don't have the son's, but if you guys have his address, maybe you could pass that on to Jim and let him make the
I still think
formal
that
letter.
it would be prudent for somebody from the city to go out and talk to her. Build up a personal relationship.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Well, what we found out the other night is it's kind of out of her hands. It's in this son's hands now.
he's kind of the, how do you want to say it? you know,
Talking to her, I think, yeah, although he said we reversed her that other 0.2 or 5 million or whatever.
Well, if she's got an attorney, it certainly wouldn't be objectionable to contact him if she would authorize him to talk to me about it. Like call him up.
Then you find out exactly who controls it. That's, maybe the son just thinks he controls it. I don't know, you probably know more about that. I don't know. We're so in the dark about most of it.
That's the whole thing. If you're talking about investing $3 million and you don't have that first million, then
Well, I know, and they were gonna write the check the other night.
So and they funded several other projects too, you know, as far as giving money to different things go. And so, I mean, they have, they have a history and experience with this. So my concern is dragging this out. And if he said $1 million to a 503, blah, 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 let's fast track that. And I mean, I just, this has been drug out. We bugged Twyla. We've known about this source for well over a year. So I'm just concerned drawing it out, and like I said, they do have a history of doing this, of donating. So they have experience with it. But so I would just like to say, whatever the fast track, what they need and what we need, let's get it done.
And that's what he's trying to do with that. But we can't commit to a $3 million deal till we know we're gonna get it.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. So if they want to
So that
503,
needs to
whatever,
come first.
definitely consider the Crofton Foundation because it's established, and if that's what he needs.
If he
then-
was ready to write it tonight, write it to the Crofton
Yeah.
Community Foundation.
And they'll get him the paperwork he
Nebraska
needs.
501c3. Bam.
Crofton Community.
Crofton Community Foundation.
Yeah, they're having a mixer.
Yeah, next Tuesday night, we're having a meet and greet.
Because you just, like I said, it's been drug out and you don't want to lose it, like you said, or make plans and then not have that opportunity. So if there's a fast way that's.
Well, I told her we had to come to this meeting tonight, and I told him I would call him after this meeting, what was going on, so.
Remember that the city can accept a donation like that also.
Yes.
And the foundation would have to write it back to the city, which, that's your business, I don't care. I'm just saying, if the foundation takes it, then they have to dedicate it toward your project too. Because you can't borrow against the foundation's money.
Right.
You guys got a number? Is there a number on these 501c?
I think that you should I think they should try to give it to the city.
Foundation has a
Don,
brochure
what do you
that will cover a bunch of
I
this
said, I
stuff.
think that if they knew the
Joyce
city
can get your,
we would be better off.
I might have a copy
They don't have
of
the
it too.
funds.
We
But,
get a tax
get
break.
it to
Can't
you.
borrow borrow against the foundation's money.
So don't need that.
I can take a picture of it.
Now,
Can the foundation give them a...
I left it in my.
oh, good.
I'll
I
take a
think your
picture.
Nebraska Community Foundation can answer that in 2 seconds.
Yeah,
That's
so
a
they should
great
make
question
it.
for them. They should be able to totally answer that question.
Okay, our suggestion, my suggestion here is that you put a lot of this into Jim's hands and let him be, he is our legal representative, let him make phone calls and talk to the attorney and so.
Well, if you said you're gonna talk to them tomorrow, talk to them tomorrow, tell them what we talked about tonight, and see whether or not they would.
And I'll have Don there, so I have a witness, and we got on our speaker, we did that the other night, so it worked out good.
Let me know what you want me to do.
And I can, once we find out, I'll text you his number, that way you have it, so you can make contact with him. Okay?
Okay, we need to approve the claims tonight. So we need a motion for approval of the claims.
Sorry, my ride's easy.
Oh, no, it isn't. Okay, we have minutes from last month that need to be approved, and we need claims that need to be approved. Okay? I think that Kathy sent out the minutes a while back to you. That would be from the December
23rd?
January 23rd.
January 23rd.
23rd.
Yep, that's it.
I got it. Don't ask me why. I got it.
Okay, so then you're gonna send it to Larry? Yeah, Brock, how you doing? Yes, ma'am.
I don't know. Yep. Okay, a motion to approve the minutes, please.
I'll make a motion that we approve the January 23rd minutes.
Motion by Isla, second by?
I'll second.
By Arlene. Vote is Larry.
Yes.
Don.
Yes.
Arlene.
Yes.
Isla.
Yes.
Then we need a motion to approve the claims.
The what?
The claims.
The bills.
The bills.
I'll make a motion to approve the current bills.
Okay, Larry makes a motion for to pay the claims, second by?
No, I'll second.
Okay, Don?
Yes.
Arlene?
Yes.
Isla?
Yes.
And Larry?
Yes.
Okay, then we need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Don?
Yes.
Isla?
Yes.
Arlene?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Okay. Meeting is adjourned.